The Allen Lund Company continues to support the owner-operators of OOIDA. Thank you for what you do and stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
Despite the uncertainty in the freight market right now, truckers are largely optimistic about what the next 3 to 6 months are going to look like. Do those feelings match up with the reality of the situation within the market? Sean Dehan, Vice President of Corporate Strategy at Truckstop, has some insights about the current landscape and what the indicators are telling us about the months ahead. Also on today's program, a love of trucking can be passed down through generations, and that is certainly the case for a man who went to the Mid-America Trucking Show this year. We speak with him about how coming across an international cabover led to the drive of his dreams. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Mark. Less than 3 weeks after Aurora Innovation launched its first driverless trucks, the company now has to change course. PACCAR Inc., which manufactures the trucks, requested that there be someone in the driver's seat moving forward. In a post, Aurora CEO Chris Urmson said that PACCAR requested they have a person in the driver's seat because of certain prototype parts in their base vehicle platform. Urmson stated that Aurora is confident this is not required to operate the truck safely based on the company's testing, but he said PACCAR is a longtime partner and they respect the company's request. Urmson did make note, though, that the observer in the driver's seat will not operate the vehicle and that the truck will be fully autonomous and responsible for all driving tasks, including pulling over to a safe location if required. He said this change will have no impact on Aurora's near, mid, and long-term development plans. The recent executive order on English proficiency requirements for truck drivers will be the topic of conversation at an event that's being held tomorrow with the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. According to a release, Duffy will announce an update on how the U.S. DOT is executing this executive order and discuss the critical role truckers play in our economy. OOIDA's President Todd Spencer will be present at the event.
My intent is certainly to urge the Secretary, urge DOT, urge the administration to follow through on really addressing this issue specifically, but the whole issue of training and testing for new people entering in our industry. Right now, I mean, we know from data, we know from experience that the safest drivers on the road today are those that are experienced. Yet, because of short-sighted thinking on the part of way too many, we don't work to create the environment that would keep experienced drivers on the job and satisfied and adequately taken care of. So they leave, and they're replaced by brand new people that will invariably and unfortunately crash more often. Again, we can do better than that. We should do better than that. And certainly we're going to shout it from the mountaintops that these are the things that need to be done if you really want highway safety to be at the top. And when I say highway safety, that's one element. But again, truckers are the supply chain. And if we don't adequately take care of them, then our supply chain is as vulnerable as it can be. And again, we can do better than that.
Tomorrow's event is taking place in Austin, Texas. A truck driver was found guilty last week of vehicular homicide in relation to a crash in 2023 that killed 3 high school students and 3 adults that were on a charter bus in Ohio. According to ABC News, a judge found Jacob McDonald guilty on 6 misdemeanor counts of vehicular homicide, but he was cleared of a felony. The judge stated that the truck driver's actions were negligent but not reckless. According to the article, McDonald was speeding at the time of the crash and failed to brake for slowing traffic on I-70 because he was looking at his phone. McDonald's defense attorney disputed that claim, saying cellular data did not clearly show what was happening before the crash. According to the investigation, the crash happened after McDonald hit an SUV, which it pushed into the bus. Some of the vehicles involved caught fire. McDonald now faces a maximum sentence of 18 months, according to his attorney. A motion picture company that asked the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration for an exemption from a portion of the agency's drug and alcohol clearinghouse requirements has been granted its request. DISA Entertainment Compliance Solutions, formerly known as Motion Picture Compliance Solutions, asked FMCSA for the exemption renewal back in March. Specifically, the group wants an exemption from the requirement that an employer must not employ a driver who is subject to drug and alcohol testing until a full query of the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse has been conducted. Instead, DISA Entertainment Compliance Solutions would conduct a limited query of the clearinghouse before one of its member employers hires a driver for a project. If the limited query discovered the driver was in the clearinghouse, the driver would not be allowed to perform safety-sensitive functions until a full query determines that the driver is not prohibited from operating a commercial motor vehicle. FMCSA granted the exemption, which is effective from May 28th through May 28th of 2030. A safety campaign is underway in Alabama. Until May 24th, the Alabama Department of Transportation is raising awareness to help improve road safety by participating in the Our Roads, Our Safety Week. The goal of the campaign is to educate all users on how to share the roads safely with large trucks and buses. The department put out information for drivers to keep in mind when it comes to trucks. One being that trucks are often 20 to 30 times heavier than passenger vehicles, and the mass of a truck or bus increases the risk of a more severe crash. The department says if road users are more aware of things like blind spots and the fact that trucks and buses take longer to stop, this could lead to safer roads for everybody. The 43rd annual Shell Rotella Super Rigs is right around the corner. This year's event will take place at the Atlanta Motor Speedway from May 29th through the 31st. To register, you can visit super-rigs.mymilesmatter.com. More than $25,000 in cash and prizes will be awarded across 20 categories. A contestant truck parade is scheduled for opening night, while the Emerald Empire Band will perform on May 30th before a fireworks show closes the day's festivities. Awards, including 12 spots in the 2026 Super Rigs calendar, will be presented on May 31st. All events throughout Super Rigs are open to the public and free to attend. And finally, there's been a lot of buzz around a North Carolina fire crew that came to the rescue of some bees who were in need of a cool down. According to WNCN, a tractor-trailer hauling 130 pallets of beehives blew a tire on Interstate 95 recently. Temperatures were in the mid-80s at the time. For the driver to change the tire, the bees needed to be calmed down, which is where the fire crews came in. According to the article, firefighters blew bursts of water in a fog-like pattern to help cool the hives without harming the bees. The driver was then able to change the tire and continue on his trip. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. The old expression says time is money, but for truckers, it's miles that generate the income. However, some people in Congress want to make people value your time by making them pay for all the work you do beyond 40 hours every week. The Guaranteeing Overtime for Truckers, or Got Truckers Act, would require overtime pay for truckers. The bill is H.R. 1962 in the House and S. 893 in the Senate. Call your members of Congress now at 202-224-3121 to show your support for the bill, or you can write a letter to them at the website fightingfortruckers.com. Again, that's H.R. 1962 in the House and S. 893 in the Senate. Next, Scott Thompson discusses optimism about the next few months in trucking with Sean Dehan of Truckstop. And Ashley Blackford talks with Dave Gleason about how a love of trucking can be passed down through generations. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
At Truckstop, we've built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truckstop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone's FD694 drive tire for long haul and regional applications now delivers 126,000 more removal miles than the Yokohama TY517 MC2. Contact your Firestone commercial dealer to learn more.
Welcome back. Scott Thompson here with Landline Now. You know, as humans, what we feel doesn't always match up with reality, and that's something that stood out to me in recent months as we patiently wait for the trucking recession to fully fade away. We could talk numbers all day, and we do sometimes, but it's the reality on the ground that really matters, which is why we're bringing in Sean Dehan to bring it all into focus for us. Sean is the VP of Corporate Strategy at Truckstop, and he joins us on the line now. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Scott, it's a pleasure to be here.
And congratulations, I guess, are in order, right, as well. This is the 30th anniversary, I think, of Truckstop.
Yeah. I didn't even have to bring that one up. Thank you for doing that. 30 years, yeah. I usually like to say that, you know, freight is a place where you meet a lot of lifers in transportation. And it's hard for me to sit on a panel or talk to other people and be the guy that's been in freight for the longest amount of time. So I tend to just rest on the laurels of Truckstop, who's been at it for 30 years. And I can usually at least be in middle of the pack with a 30-year anniversary mark. So we're pretty excited. It's been a long and fun run for Truckstop, and you know, our mission is to find a better way for everyone in the industry. And I think we're looking forward to finding a better way for another 30 years. So hopefully in 30 more years, we'll have that 60th anniversary, and we'll be excited about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you guys look for better ways, we're looking for better days, I think, with regard to the freight market.
Yeah.
And they're really, you know, as I kind of said there a moment ago, I think there are two sides to this coin these days that I'd like to talk to you about. And again, we talk with your colleague, Brent Hutto, every week for the latest spot market data. But I'd like to start with how people are feeling out there amid the grind. And it has been a grind for quite a while now. Truckstop and Bloomberg recently released results of a survey of owner-operators and small fleet carriers. And kind of surprising, maybe not totally surprising, but somewhat to me, the majority, it seems like, are pretty optimistic, at least about the short-term future, right? Tell us about what we learned from all this.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. I'll give you kind of the facts real quick, and then maybe I'll give you some op-ed as I look at it and kind of talk to customers, hear from customers, and of course the survey. So, you know, I think what we found, unsurprisingly, a lot of people thought that tariffs would hurt the industry. About 65% said that tariffs would hurt the industry. But I hold that thought for a second, because in a minute you're going to be like, these two things don't quite match up. 65% think tariffs are going to hinder the industry, specifically like actually hurt it, you know, hurt volumes, hurt trucking rates, or whatever it may be. But despite that, 62% say they're optimistic about sustained demand, and 55% think are bullish about rate growth. So 55%, you know, that's only 5% more than half of people. But like the fact that half of people are pretty bullish about rate growth, despite the fact that tariffs are also something they think will impact the industry. It's sort of an interesting dichotomy of results, and that, you know, there's overlap in those two data points for our customers. And, you know, I think additionally, you know, we're seeing more kind of optimism just around the business that the owner operators are in particular. 57% said they plan to stay as owner operators or leased on company drivers, and that's 7 points higher than we saw the quarter before. And, you know, honestly, you'd think that with all the craziness that we're experiencing right now, we have tariffs, we don't have tariffs, China imports are down in the Long Beach by 60% one month over the other. You'd think that would wear people down a little bit after kind of 3 hard years, basically, at this point. But we're still seeing, you know, folks that are committed to the cause and committed to staying on the road. And in trucking, they're probably not on the road this week, but they're committed to staying on the road, generally speaking. And you know, I think that we found that pretty interesting, because at the same time, as you know from talking with Brent a lot, market rates don't really show you that you should be particularly bullish right now.
Yeah, and I guess that's my question. I think you kind of teased it there a moment ago, but, you know, the sentiment is, I wouldn't say overly optimistic, but cautiously optimistic. And I think we've kind of been in that territory for a while now. The reality, though, and you brought up tariffs, because I think that's kind of the biggest elephant in the room right now. And it's uncertainty is really what it's all about right now. We're not quite sure what's going to happen and where things are headed there. But the sentiment that you caught wind of through the survey and you're hearing from people out there, does it match up with what we're actually seeing there in the market and where we may be headed? How do you line those two things up, I guess, is my question.
What's hard about sentiment, Scott, in this industry in particular, is you get a little bit of survivorship bias in the data, right? The folks that are answering your survey are the ones that have been able to stay on the road, which typically means that they probably have a decent business, right? They've got some good customers, they've got some good dedicated freight, and so you're always in a weird. It's kind of a weird dynamic in Truckstop's world. Typically, when a customer leaves us, they leave trucking or they leave being an owner operator. They go in to drive for a company, or they maybe just hang up the rack, hang up the keys, and leave the industry, or they put it on pause for a little bit. And so we don't hear their sentiment about why they left, right? They just sort of leave and they don't give us a lot of notice about it. But then we go to our existing customers, and the ones that have sort of stayed on the road probably have a reason for it. They might have a decent business that they're running, and they may have some good customer freight. And so we tend to hear from those types of survivors to begin with. And so they, generally speaking, I think probably have a predilection to being a little more optimistic. And that's sort of a thing you see, typically speaking, in sort of successful businesses is oftentimes a little bit of optimism is really important to sort of survive. But when we look at it like on the road, like literally rubber meeting the road, we hear from some customers that are still finding exceptional, freight, really good rates in certain pockets, and they're just sort of operating in what a lot of times are called honeypots or a lot of niches that they've really focused on. So you can certainly have a successful trucking company right now, and don't let me define what success is. Success for you may not be millions of dollars. It may be a really good life on the road, making the right amount of money for yourself, but they're having a really successful time achieving what they want to achieve. And I think others are struggling, and what they're often doing is leaving the market. And I think when we look at the data across the two, freight market rates are not where you'd expect them to be for someone to be optimistic. They've just sort of like been flat. We got a little pull forward in March. There's so much freight data right now that you basically have to say, you can't really look at that. Like, you can't use that as a comp, right? COVID, we had to like wash that out and say, you can't really use that as a comp. And now Trump is doing this little dance, this tariff dance, where it's causing a lot of months or weeks where you just say, there's a lot of noise there. Like, was that real, or was that tariff pull forward? And so I think if I'm a trucker and I'm feeling this optimism, what ends up happening in this dynamic is that you're actually really important as a trucker, as a truck driver. Your sentiment is really important for how the industry goes. And unfortunately, right now, we're not seeing a lot of demand catalysts outside of really short-term catalysts, like 90-day tariff pause with China will probably cause some pull forward. We would predict that there's pull forward going to come, right? By the time that 90-day pause is over, it's going to be August, right? And you don't really know, is that going to push higher? Is it going to push lower? Where is it going to land? And so people will probably do a little bit of a mixed bag on hedging around pulling forward some, just in case things will get worse from here. So we expect a little bit of a spike there, but the optimism that people feel on the ground, on the road today, probably means that we're going to follow along this bottom unless we see some meaningful demand change. And there's really, we don't see a lot of catalysts right now for demand change. And without demand change catalysts, you need capacity to change. You need the truck count to go down. And when you have optimism like you have right now, you don't forecast that truck count is going to go down meaningfully.
Yeah. And as I hear you talking, I keep thinking back to a year ago, 2 years ago. I think my sense of time has completely been warped in recent years. But, a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, it was, the first quarter of 2024, we're going to start to see things. Remember that? We're going to start to see things turn. Then it became a third quarter thing and a fourth quarter. Now we're into the second quarter of 2025, and we're still, scraping along that bottom there. Are you optimistic that we're going to see this change in any significant way anytime soon, based on everything you're seeing and everybody you're talking to?
I mean, I must say I was feeling optimistic in January, and I might have caught the bug a little bit. It might have been like a little wishful optimism. It's good for me, so I'm optimistic about it. But it's certainly, my optimism has kind of cooled. But I don't think it's all bad news, right? Like it doesn't mean that freight's not moving. There's still demand. There's still good freight out there. There's still good contracts out there to be had. There's still good customers out there to be had. And what I think one potential blessing that comes from something like this, a prolonged version of this, is that the capacity that remains in the market after all of this should be the best capacity. right? In the end, right? The highest quality trucks, the highest quality truckers, the best operators. This is an operator's market, and if you can make it through this market and come out to the other side, you'll probably make some good money on the other side, right? And it's an operator's market, and I know I have a number of friends and customers who are operators in this market who are doing very well. Now, were they doing better 3 years ago? Yes, they were doing better 3 years ago. Who wasn't? But they're doing very well, all things considered. And, they're able to take the time they want off. They're able to work the time that they do. And, their mindset is just a little different. This is a little further afield from your conversation, but their mindset is they're very customer focused, right? They think about their customer. They really think about their business as a business, and they're focused on how do I best serve the customer? And then how do I win more from that customer? Because what I learn is that every day in trucking, what I learn is that great trucking companies that deliver a good service and a great solution, there's always room in the market for them. Always. Even if it's a tough capacity market, there's always room. And just because you're struggling right now doesn't mean you're not good, doesn't mean you don't have a good solution. It just might be a good time for you to step back and think about your business from a more strategic perspective and say, what should I be doubling down on? Which customers have been really good to me this year? Who can I go back to for more freight that maybe I'm in the hurry of trying to find a load? I'm not working my relationships the way I want to. So those are great ways to sort of think about and surviving, if you will, or even thriving in a market that doesn't seem to have like a clear end date right now, right? Like I can't tell you right now that by the end of 2025 we should be good to go, right? I don't have the optimism to say that.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice too. You talk about building up those relationships and building up the networking, capabilities that you have right now. Really is the best. You have to do that right now for the most part if you want to be successful. And I think that's good advice anytime, right?
Evergreen.
Obviously, but but especially for now. And you kind of read my mind because I was going to ask you, what you would say to those people out there who may be hanging on. They may, have been hanging on for a few months now and are optimistic or have been cautiously optimistic and maybe now are at the end of their rope. What advice do you have for those folks as they try to navigate all of this? And it may be as simple as, the thing you just said, continuing to build those relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not to bank on the market. Don't bank on the market changing, right? If your business plan requires the market to change in the next 3 months, then I would sit back down at the dinner table or in your recliner at home and rethink the business plan, right? Because that's just not, hope is not a strategy, as they say, right? And we really can't just hope in 3 months that the market will be better. And so I think you really have to sit back and say, if I'm struggling right now, which a lot of people are, there's nothing wrong with you. There's, it's not just a you thing. The market is challenging, but what is it that I can maybe do differently over the next 3 months that could position me, one, to make a little bit better income over the next 3 months, but also make better income over the next 3 months after that without the market changing, right? Because whatever you do today probably isn't going to give you fruit in a month. You're going to have to plant a seed, water the seed and see it start to sprout. But by the end of that 3 month, 6 month period, maybe you've built a little bit of a different business that's a little more resilient, that has a little bit more consistent freight and in lanes that you really, really want to run. So that's how I would think about it. Like, don't hope for the market. Step back a little bit from your business. Think about it. Think about where areas you can improve your customer service, your customer relationship, your cost per mile, whatever it may be.
Great advice, Sean, and people can get more of that kind of advice, I guess, at truckstop.com. Obviously, we'll talk to you again soon. Maybe when the second quarter sentiment report comes out, we'll check in with you and see how people are feeling then. All right. Hey, Sean, thank you so much. Really do appreciate your time.
Thank you, Scott. Take care.
Our thanks to Sean Dehan of Truckstop. Landline Now is back right after this. Stick around.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a cat scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget misaccuracy when you truck on a cat scale.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
Landline Now, welcome back. The Mid-America Trucking Show draws people from all over for various reasons. Dave Gleason was one who stood out to OOIDA staff. He attended this year's show, not as a trucker, but as a plumber who grew up loving the trucking lifestyle, all thanks to his Uncle Al.
So he started, him and my Aunt Phyllis were a husband and team bed buggers. They worked for North American Van Lines. He started in the early 70s, I think. His first truck was a Transtar 2 that I think he worked it through North American to own it, and then worked his way. So in the early 70s, he was doing furniture moves, a lot of government contracts. And I remember as a kid, he would go to California, and sometimes they didn't have anything for him to come back to the East Coast. So he would haul raisins, little boxes of raisins. And then he'd get home and hand them all out to all the grandkids. And it was super cool.
Awesome.
So I do remember that. Yeah. So, as I got older and he saw that I enjoyed trucks and trucking, and he started bringing me on board. It was awesome. It was so cool.
Did you ever consider a career in trucking?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Believe it or not. Right before the pandemic hit, I went to Baltimore to check out a trucking school. And the guy's like, you need to be behind the wheel, and I'm like, well, the trucks nowadays aren't as cool as they were back in the day. So I'm like, And then COVID hit and that just kind of fell apart. So,
yeah. But you have a heart for the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I still, even in my little minivan, I still make my turns nice and wide. I still critique everybody else's driving. I get over when there's someone on the shoulder of the road, all the things my uncle instilled. So, yeah.
I had heard that Landline Magazine played a part in your childhood as well. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. Landline he got all the magazines, and Landline was one of them. I'd always raid his magazine piles before he even had a chance to read them. And Landline was one of them. I remember taking it and cutting out all the pictures. I didn't care about what it said. I just cared about the pictures. And then I texted Trevor a picture, some of my scrapbooks, and I would cut them up and paste all the pictures of trucks in my book. So, yeah.
Clearly, obviously, your uncle had a big impact on your life.
Yeah, he honestly didn't want me to drive a truck. He was like, do something else. And I guess I listened. I did, but I still like, I see a beautiful truck on the road, I just like go crazy. I was on vacation with my family, and we were pulling the jet skis behind us. It's the closest I'll ever get to pulling a trailer. And I saw a K100 Aerodyne, and I'm like, oh my God, we have to turn around and we got to go check it out. And it was during COVID, so it was really weird for the guy to see us pull up. And my wife is just like, oh my God, really? Here we go again. And so, yeah, that happens. Yeah, I chased the classic cabover. I was on my way home from work one day, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing at the red light. It was a late model K100 Aerodyne, which is my favorite truck on the face of the planet. And I saw it, and it was going southbound. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to get a picture of that thing. So I chased it for like 30, 40 miles south until it got into like a traffic jam-ish. And I got ahead of them, and I finally was able to snap a picture. Didn't even honk the horn or anything. I was like, huh, not cool. So
why do you think he didn't want you to get into trucking?
He just saw the struggles of being an owner-operator. Fuel prices, insurance, he was always like, because at the time, J.B. Hunt was a big, Schneider, J.B. Hunt, the big guys, the big carriers. They were, the companies paid for all their everything, they just drove the truck. And as an owner operator, he was responsible for everything. All the fuel, the repairs, maintenance, all the things. And it's a lot of money, and he just didn't want to see me go down kind of that road, I guess. I don't know, just from his own personal experience. He always said the heyday of trucking was in the 70s.
Yeah.
When he first started out, he was doing pretty well. But a lot of the bigger outfits got involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was always thinking, the trains were going to take over, And now, to his point, they're talking about AI, like self-driving trucks, which I guess is good and bad. It's scary, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I still think you need a body behind the wheel to
I agree.
something like that.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm so out of the industry. I'm just a kid reliving his past, basically, is all this is. So I have no input on current anything. So, yeah.
So this year you went to the Mid-America Trucking Show. Did you kind of go to honor him?
Yes and no. It was more of this truck show. Being a huge fan, like this thing's been going on as long as I've been alive, and I've never been. And I'm like, I'm going. And I remember it was a Monday morning. It was a January dreary day. And I'm like, I need to go somewhere. And Matt's was coming up at the end of March. And I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm going. I booked a little house and I just made it happen. I just drove from Annapolis, Maryland to Louisville and my little minivan, which is my plumbing truck also, which is weird, but it works. I even outfitted the van in case I had to stay in it. In case something happened, I put a sleeping bag back there, but there was no way I was missing Matt's. And I did, I was there for a long time. Like I would go and I'm like, I'll just stay for a little. No, I ended up staying like the entire, 2.5 days at the show. It was great. It was fantastic. More than I thought it would be. It was just amazing. Amazing experience. It's funny because I have one of my neighbors that lives here in our neighborhood. She works for a trucking outfit and she's I forget. She told me her title and I can't remember, but her company was at Matt's and I went to their booth and saw them and they're like, who's this weirdo? So I'm like, Beth says hi. And they're like, we don't know Beth either. So beat it. So, all right. But no, they were great. They gave me a little foam truck, which is great.
Nice.
My little man loves it.
Nice.
So, yeah.
When you came across the OOIDA booth, did you know the connection with Landline?
No.
You didn't?
No. No. Honestly, I just saw, I came in, I wasn't in the front of the booth. I was kind of in the back. And there were little kids drawing on the whiteboard. And I'm a little kid. So I'm like, I want to draw too. And I had to wait for, a 5-year-old to finish up whatever they were doing. And I'm like, all right, now I can do my thing. And I did. And then Trevor came around the corner to see what all the, I pushed the kid and there was a scene. No, I'm kidding. So anyway, I got somebody's attention. He came around and saw I was doing the thing. And then he took a video, which, so here we are.
Now, you also wrote something by the truck as well.
Yeah, put R.I.P. Uncle Al.
Had he ever had the opportunity to go to Matt's?
No. I think he knew about it, but he was always too busy. He would have if he...
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Do you mind if I ask when he passed?
2002. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what he died of. I know he smoked like a chimney. Oh my God. He smoked Camel unfiltered. Holy cow. I'd get back from a road trip with him and I smelled like our chimney. I mean, that was the only thing that I was just like, oh my God, if he could just quit smoking. But that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever drank alcohol, ever. But man, he could smoke cigarettes like they were going out of style. Holy moly. He'd have cartons upon cartons upon cartons. I'm like, holy moly. The whole truck just smelled like a fireplace. And he likes circus peanuts. You know those plastic peanuts? Oh my God. I see those to this day. And I'm like, that is the most disgusting thing anyone can put in their mouth. And I remember him eating those things. I don't think he had any taste buds because he was a rough sort. And he had a deep, raspy voice. And he would eat the circus peanuts, the cigarettes, and lifesavers of all things. I had lifesavers, breath savers. Yep. I don't know. I don't know. weird. And yeah, so.
You also got to do something at Matt's the day of the parade. Is that correct?
Yeah. That really put the whole experience over the top. I set up the minivan. I had the back hatch open, and I'm waiting for all the trucks to leave and do their victory lap. And I don't know, something just caught my attention in the back. And sure enough, here come an old international cabover, just like the one my uncle drove. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow. And I just abandoned my van and walked straight to the truck. It's like he parked right in front of me. And I was like, wow. And I'm just looking at it. And Austin, saw how excited I was about it. And he jumped down and he's like, jump on up in there. And I got up in and it's like, wow, I was right back. That was cool. And then he said, I'll do one better. I'll take you for a lap around the parade route. So that was just, wow. The cherry on top, and then we got to an open area in the parking lot, and he let me drive it. And that just, man, that was so cool. And then he took pictures. He took video of me driving it, and he took a picture of me, with it and whatnot. And one of the pictures was so amazing that I sent it to my sister, and she had a canvas made of it. And this picture just blows me away. I don't know. I can't see myself in the.
Yep.
But you can see the beam of light coming down.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, that's my uncle.
Hmm.
So it was like I was meant to be there, and I'm glad I went. It's just like, wow. It was over the top.
Did you expect going to Matt's that you would just have these experiences that just really touched you?
No. I didn't expect it to be what it was. Like, I expected, I'll go, I'll look at trucks. I'm a cabover guy. I was just going to focus on cabovers. But man, there were some conventional trucks there that were just over the top. And I'm like, I can appreciate the whole, but I like the old school cabovers. They just, And and then it just being around it, like being at ground zero, like being in it. It was great. It took me right back. Yep. So, yeah, it was good. And then, being able to ride in the truck, that was just amazing. That was so cool. So the whole thing is, wow, I couldn't have asked for a better trip. It was very cool.
That was Dave Gleason talking about his experience at the Mid-America Trucking Show this past year in Louisville, Kentucky. He went to the show to pay homage to his uncle Al, who passed away more than 20 years ago. Al was a truck driver, and Dave has many fond memories growing up in the truck. Coming up, we'll hear about Dave's experience at the Mid-America Trucking Show when he came across the same make and model of his uncle's old international cabover, and the owner of that truck that gave Dave an experience of a lifetime that he won't soon forget. We've got to take a short break, but be sure to stay tuned for more.
Protect your diesel engine with Howe's Diesel Defender. Restore vital lubricity, eliminate injector deposits, and boost fuel economy by 5% or more. Power, performance, protection, all in one. Howe's Diesel Defender, available now.
With rising costs affecting everyone, switching to a genuine Vibertech TVD viscous damper can help you avoid expensive repairs and downtime. Save money and keep your truck running smooth with Vibertech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Dave Gleason, who had the opportunity at the Mid-America Trucking Show to ride in the same type of truck his uncle owned, and one that he has many fond memories in. So you mentioned Austin. He was the one who owned the cabover at Matt's?
Yeah. Yep. He's from Kentucky. I forget the town, but he's like an hour from Louisville. So, yep. He came up. And, yeah. The nicest guy you'd ever meet. I mean, he was, wow. Yeah. Cool guy. I keep in touch with him. Same with Trevor. I'd shoot him a text every now and again. So, yeah.
Did you expect him? He obviously saw perhaps your reaction to seeing the truck and knew there was a connection there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had some pictures of Uncle Al's old truck and whatnot. And I showed him like, hey, this was my uncle's truck. And he's like, wow. So we kind of like proof that, hey, I'm not just some weirdo at Matt's trying to get a free ride out of things. Just there was a connection there. So, yeah.
And did you go through the parade?
Yeah, we went around. Yeah. We jumped up in the truck and he just got in the parade and around we went.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the best part of the whole trip was the parade route and then being able to drive it was cool. I mean, I wasn't going 55 mile an hour, just, a couple gears and just little beginner stuff. So, but it was so cool. It was so cool. Yep. So
you've talked about your uncle and what he was like. What did he mean to you? He, obviously had such a impact on your life.
Oh, yeah. Well, growing up, I didn't know my real dad. So I didn't have a dad for, till I was 12 years old. So Uncle Al was kind of my father figure until then. And it didn't matter how busy he was. He always took the time to help me. And just always took the time to do. I mean, he was only home for, 2 or 3 days, and he had a ton of work to do, but he would always make the time. And I would always hang out with him when he was working on the truck. It was so cool. It was just, I don't know. I just feel very lucky to have had him in my life. You feel like a therapist, don't you?
No.
And just to, and just to be surrounded by the big truck, it just gets in your soul when I don't know, it's just, wow. I mean, any time he had to run errands in the big truck, like to go get tires or oil or something, you want to go along? Of course. I mean, I would have slept in that thing the entire time he was home if I could. So, yeah. Non-trucking related. There was a time, this is kind of paints a picture of my uncle's personality, is we were going to Elmira, New York to get something, but we were in the pickup truck. I'd just gotten contact lenses and they were in my eyeballs and they felt weird. So I roll the window down on the passenger side of the truck and I'm fidgeting with it in the mirror and the thing blows out. And it's January and there's like 3 feet of snow on the ground. And my uncle's like, you just bought those contacts. We need to find it. I was like, are you kidding me? We're going to find a clear contact lens in a snowbank. You've heard of needle in a haystack, right? Well, this is, that times 5. Sure enough, his daughter lived like right around the corner. So we went and we got bags and we shoveled snow into these bags and we took them back to her house and we melted snow in her sink to find the contact lens. And no, we did not find the lens.
Oh.
So, yeah. But that was his determination. That was his drive. That was his, like, we're gonna get this. We're gonna do this. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He was a strange man. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. So,
wow. Yeah.
But I feel fortunate to have been part of his life.
Mm-hmm. And
or have him part of my life.
Yeah. And I mean, even though you've never, officially driven a truck, you very much seem like you're part of the trucking industry, which is really like no other, I've learned.
Yeah, I feel like even though I don't drive, I feel like I'm part of it for some weird reason. Like I'm not grandfathered in, but kind of grandfathered in, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. It's always been a part of me. always, I mean, to a point where, I got a tattoo of, I don't know if you can see me that well. Probably best if you don't.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So, it wasn't my best decision, but I got a truck on my arm. And it's funny because it was when I was in the Navy, and I got out of the tattoo place, and that same truck, the T600A Aerodyne, was parked across the street. It was a Binkins moving truck. And I was like, there you go. Wow. And the T600A, it was like the latest radical design that Kenworth had come out in the 90s, early 90s. They dubbed it the Anteater. It had the slope nose, and it was just, to me at the time, was a really cool looking rig. And I would always give him facts and details about the truck when he would come home. And so one trip he went out, he traded the International in for the T600A. He came home in it, and I was just blown away. Oh, like, wow. He had been listening to all the things I'd been telling him, and he's like, Dave, I just went ahead and bought it. Here we go. So, wow. Because it had bunk beds in it, which made it a little easier for us to truck in. So, yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah. And we hauled, we did furniture moves. He hauled flatbed for a long time, covered wagon, a lot of coiled steel. We would haul to Battle Creek, Michigan, the Campbell Soup Company. And the warehouses there were just unbelievable. And they would hoist the big coils off, and it was so cool. He did the flatbed. The flatbed was a lot of heavy hauling, so it took its toll on the old International. And that's what made him get the new truck. And then we hauled cars for North American Van Lines, back to North American Van Lines.
Do you have any memories as a kid that stand out with your Uncle Al?
So as a kid, I remember my uncle we grew up in a very rural part of Pennsylvania. And I always knew when Uncle Al was coming up the road, I could just hear it. I could hear that truck coming, and I'm like, oh my God. So then he'd get closer and closer, and it's just this giant red, white, and blue tractor trailer, and it's pulling into Grandpa's. He used to park on my grandfather's farm, and they didn't really see eye to eye, so he finally moved. But yeah, I was like a dog. I would just chase the truck as he's pulling in and greet him as he got out. I'm sure he's going to himself like, oh my gosh, this kid. I can't even get out of my own truck and have him right there at my heels. So, but I think he enjoyed it. I was kind of his welcoming home party committee, I guess. So, awesome. Yeah. So I have a lot of good memories of the truck and him doing,
That's awesome.
Yeah. We would go to California a lot. And one time I remember we dropped the trailer and we bobtailed to Long Beach. The Queen Mary and the Spruce Goose were there, and we did a day tour of that. Neat. And then we went up to Washington State and did a tour of Mount Rainier State Park. And bobtailed the Kenworth up there and parked and walked around. Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah.
That's neat.
I feel very lucky to have that experience as a kid.
That's Dave Gleason talking about his experience at the Mid-America Trucking Show and growing up with a love of trucking that his Uncle Al instilled in him. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. That's our show for today. For the latest in trucking news, you can visit landline.media for accurate, up-to-date news, industry updates, and regulatory changes that impact owner-operators and professional drivers nationwide. That's landline.media. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to tune in at the same time tomorrow and stay safe.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife.
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
Chrome, and I am a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.